There's a moment everyone encounters. Someone points straight at you, says you're wrong, says you're bad, says you're not who they thought you were. Your first instinct? You open your mouth. You try to explain. That's not true. You misunderstood. I'm not like that. It sounds reasonable. It sounds fair. But Machiavelli would shake his head. Because the moment you speak to justify yourself, you've handed them the right to judge you. You say, I'm innocent. But they hear, I'm standing in the defendant's chair. And in the game of power, no one cares about the truth. They only care whether you look strong or weak. And the weak one is the one who rushes to defend himself. The strong one stands still, looks straight ahead, says nothing. Lets the whole room wonder, why isn't he reacting? That's when the power begins to shift. First principle of power, no defense. In the game of power, truth is not the winning card. Perception is everything. People don't ask, are you right? They quietly ask, are you weak? When you react, explain, or try to extinguish an accusation, you've just exposed a wound, like a drop of blood on snow. A predator will smell it instantly. And once they do, they won't stop. The strong don't need to build a shield. They stand tall, silent. Not because they are mute before the truth, but because they understand. When they say nothing, the world will find reasons to defend them. Imagine a meeting. Someone smiles bitterly and says, this idea isn't ready. An ordinary person will rush to explain, shuffle papers, cite reasons. The strong will lean back, stay silent, and look straight. Then slowly say, then you present your plan. With that single sentence, the balance shifts. The other person suddenly has to prove themselves. The whole room no longer sees you as the defendant, but as the judge. In life, you will see many times that explanations change nothing. The truth still gets bent. But if you are still enough, you'll see what Machiavelli understood long ago. Silence at the right time is not just dodging a blow, it's flipping the whole board. Power is not in being right. It is in others believing you cannot be defeated. 2. Why self-justification always weakens you. When you rush to explain, you've stepped into someone else's arena. The rules are theirs. The frame is theirs. And you're just running in circles trying to prove you're not wrong. Every word you speak, then, is an admission. I acknowledge you have the right to question me. Even if you're 100% right, the image from the outside is still of someone trying to hold their ground. And in the eyes of the crowd, only the weak have to hold their ground. Picture a dinner party. Someone half joking, half serious says, "You always think you're better than everyone else." The ordinary person will give a strained smile, then rush to explain, "No, But the one who knows the rules will pause, take a sip of wine, and remain silent. That silence makes the other person uneasy. The whole table suddenly turns to watch. Not you, but them. In power, you don't win by winning the argument. You win when others begin to doubt the very frame they built. When you refuse to play by their rules, you force them to play by yours. The rule of silence, the rule of distance, the rule that makes the opponent question themselves. Machiavelli would say, "Don't let the truth be decided by whoever shouts the loudest. Let your silence be the only answer, because that answer doesn't protect you. It makes you untouchable." Third Machiavellian strategy: silence and reflection. Silence is the sharpest knife, not because it cuts into the opponent, but because it lets them cut into themselves. When you don't react, the other person begins to spin around in their own thoughts. They ask themselves, what is he thinking? What does he know? Is he looking down on me? That doubt doesn't lie in you. It lies in them, and it corrodes. Whoever speaks first often has to reveal their intentions, emotions, and weaknesses. And once you let others hold the frame of the story, you've already handed them the outcome. Conversely, if you keep the frame, you keep the win. Picture a meeting room. Someone throws out, "I'm not sure your plan is feasible." An ordinary person will bring out data, figures, and arguments. A person who understands Machiavelli will lean back, look straight, and stay silent for a few beats. If they need to speak, they'll just say, "Why don't you present your plan?" At that moment, the frame has shifted. The pressure is no longer on you. It's entirely on them. Power does not come from rebutting at the right time. It comes from making others reveal their own loss of control. When they look emotional, unstable, obsessed, you don't need to prove anything at all. You just need to stand there and let your silence speak for you. 4. The psychology behind wanting to be understood. People often have a silent desire to be understood by others. It sounds beautiful. But in power, that is a weakness. Because wanting to be understood means you need someone's sympathy. You want them to accept your story. And when you want that, you put power in their hands. Strong people don't need to be understood. They don't build their position from sympathy. They build it from fear, respect, and a distance no one can touch. Imagine a tense relationship. The other person says, "You don't care about me anymore." An ordinary person will rush to explain, listing everything they have done. A strong person will simply respond, "That's not how I see it." No raising of the voice, no arguing, no seeking agreement. The remaining space, the other person will fill themselves, often with doubts about their own feelings. Machiavelli would say, being understood is a small reward. Being respected is the victory. Because respect, or fear, does not come from you sharing everything. It comes when others realize they can't read you at all. And it is precisely that unpredictability that is the strongest wall of protection. 5. Keep mystery, increase power. People who truly have power don't talk much. They keep silence like a knife hidden up their sleeve. When attacked, they don't blink. They don't rush to explain. They don't lower themselves. Machiavelli once said, "The one who explains is the one who bows his head." Because when you explain, you have already taken the role of the inferior. You have allowed others to sit in judgment over you. Silence does something strange. It turns you into an empty space, and that space forces others to fill it themselves. They begin to inflate your image in their minds, sometimes bigger, more dangerous, more formidable than reality. Picture a party. Someone throws a sarcastic line. You must always think you're the smartest in the room. An ordinary person will rebut, or give an awkward laugh, or try to ease the tension. A person holding power will simply look, stay silent, and keep enjoying their wine. In that moment, the others will wonder, what is he thinking? Does he agree? Is he waiting for the right moment to strike back? Power does not come from giving people an immediate answer. It comes from letting them wrestle with their own questions. And sometimes, it is precisely that ambiguity that is the hardest blow. 6. Applying the tactic in life. Silence is not always easy, but if you want power, You must learn to use it. In society, everyone has been mocked at some point. A snide remark, a thin smile. An ordinary person will respond or try to act cheerful. A person who understands the rules of the game will simply stay silent. Keep calm. Let the other person hear their own voice. Realize they have just made a scene in front of others. In the meeting room, it's the same. Someone says, "I'm not sure your plan is feasible." Many people's reflex is to immediately defend themselves, bringing out all the data. But by doing so, you've accepted the position of being questioned. A smart person will lean back, wait a few seconds, then say, "Why don't you present your plan?" The pressure shifts instantly. Now they must prove themselves, not you. In relationships, emotions make us react even more easily. When the other says, "You don't care about me anymore," an ordinary person will scramble to reassure, explain, list their good deeds. A person holding power will simply look straight and say, "That's not how I see it." Short, no defense, no search for agreement. Machiavelli understood this long ago. Power does not come from winning every argument, but from deciding when you join one. Silence at the right time is not avoidance. It is choosing your battle. Each time you refuse to be dragged into an emotional whirlpool, you reinforce your image. Hard to shake, hard to read, and not easily controlled by anyone. In life, you don't need to answer every call. Sometimes, the greatest power is to let others speak, and let them drown in their own echo. 7. Advanced tactic, turning accusations into the opponent's weakness. There is a way even sharper than silence. Not only ignoring the accusation, but turning it into a mirror that reflects the other person's insecurity. You don't deny it. You don't say, "That's not true." Instead, you twist the statement so that it points out the gap in their mind. Someone says, "You're arrogant." You reply, "Strange how confidence bothers people so much." Now, the story is no longer about you. It's about their discomfort with confidence. They say, "You're fake." You say, "Everyone says that when they can no longer get what they want." Suddenly, the listener starts to wonder, what did they want from him? This tactic is like a counter-throw. You use the very force they've launched and let it swing back to hit them. The other person expects you to defend yourself. You don't. They expect to see you shaken. You stand still. And in that silence, all eyes turn to scrutinize them. The one who attacked, but now has to defend themselves. Machiavelli would smile. Because this is refined power. You don't need to win with words. You win by making the opponent lose their footing on their own. 8. The paradox rule. There is a simple paradox. The more you try to protect yourself, the more you look like you need protection. The more you ignore, the more dangerous others think you are. People believe what they feel more than what you say. If you keep explaining, they'll think, there must be something to hide. If you stay silent, they will fill the gap with assumptions, and assumptions often exaggerate your power. You don't need a good reputation. A good reputation makes people expect you to always be gentle, pleasant, and ready to yield. What you need is a strong reputation, so that anyone who wants to touch you has to think twice. Remember a time when someone publicly mocked you. If you forced a smile and explained, the audience would remember that you were attacked. If you just looked at them and stayed silent, the audience would remember the tension you created. Machiavelli would say, being good is easy. being strong is hard. And being strong is not about winning every battle, but about making people afraid to even start one with you. 9. The power of being misunderstood. Being misunderstood is not always a bad thing. If you remain calm when it happens, it becomes a weapon. Others expect you to react, to correct, to reclaim the truth for yourself. When you don't, they are confused. They start to wonder, what is he thinking? What does he know that I don't? That silence plants a vague fear in them. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved," because fear makes people cautious, while love changes easily. The unpredictable person controls the playing field. If they don't know how you'll react, they won't dare take risks. Imagine, someone makes up a story about you in a meeting. An ordinary person would counter immediately. A person who understands the rules would just smile, stay silent, and let the room watch whether the story holds up. When you don't rush to fix every misunderstanding, you allow others to live in doubt, and sometimes that very gap is what makes them most wary of you. 10th, strong reputation versus good reputation. A good reputation sounds nice, but it's fragile. It makes people think you will always be kind, always soft, and therefore easy to test. A mocking remark, a jab. They want to see how you'll react. A strong reputation is different. It doesn't need pleasantness to exist. It is built from people knowing that if they touch you, they will have to pay a price. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are unpredictable. And sometimes your silence is more frightening than a threat. Imagine a meeting. Someone says, "You always think you're right." A person with a good reputation will rush to explain to smooth things over. A person with a strong reputation will simply look, stay silent, and continue working. The room will feel the tension. That person will start to wonder what trouble they just stirred up. Not defending yourself is not losing. It's making others wary because they don't know what you'll do next. Machiavelli would say, "Being good may make people like you, but being strong makes them not dare to touch you." 11th, from silence to aura. Silence is only the first step. The pinnacle is aura, the kind that makes accusations dissolve before they even reach you. When you reach this level, you don't need to react. Your presence is already the answer. Others look at you and know instantly. Arguing is pointless. That aura isn't innate. It's built from the many times you've chosen not to get pulled into meaningless battles. From the times you've kept your gaze calm when someone tried to provoke you. From getting used to letting others think wrongly about you without needing to correct them. Picture this. In a meeting, someone makes a snide remark. You don't raise an eyebrow, you don't smile, you don't respond. You carry on with your work as if the words never existed. The atmosphere changes. That person feels out of place. Others start to see you as someone who stands outside of every conflict, yet still holds control. Machiavelli would say, "When no one thinks they can touch you, you've already won." At that point, silence is no longer a tactic. It becomes aura. And it's that aura that becomes an impenetrable wall. 12. The crowd's protection mechanism. When you choose not to react, something interesting happens. The crowd starts paying attention. They see you being attacked without striking back. And sometimes, that very fact makes them side with you. People hate the feeling of injustice. When you're silent, they think, "He doesn't deserve that." They start speaking for you, countering for you, even defending your honor without you having to open your mouth. This is a form of Machiavellian leverage. You don't expend energy to fight. You let others do it. And when they do, the weight of their words often carries more than any justification from you. Picture a meeting. Someone throws an insult at you in front of the group. You stay still, keep taking notes. A colleague turns and says, "I think that comment was a bit harsh." The atmosphere shifts. The attacker suddenly becomes the one who has to justify themselves. Machiavelli would say, "The greatest power isn't winning a fight yourself, but making others willingly fight for you. Because when the crowd stands with you, you're not just protected, you're elevated." 13th practical technique. There are remarks thrown out just to see if you'll lose your temper. If you react, they win. If you correct, explain, or justify, you've stepped right into their frame. The best way is to ignore it. Not because you're weak, but because you won't waste your breath on cheap shots. You can tilt your head slightly, keep your voice slow and steady. Is that what you think? No mockery, no bitterness, just a direct question that makes them hear their own words again. Or close the topic with a few short words. Noted. Up to you. We'll see. These phrases don't invite more argument. They cut the emotional fuel right there. When doing this, keep your body still. Don't shrug. Don't roll your eyes. Don't let your voice tremble. Your gaze steady, your hands resting on the table, your breathing even. This stillness makes others unable to read what you're thinking or what you'll do next. And the unpredictable always makes them hesitate. Picture a meeting. Someone sneers. You always think you're right. You don't rebut. You just look at them, pause for a few seconds and say, "Up to you." The whole room feels the tension shift. That person suddenly feels they have to explain themselves. Machiavelli would say, "This technique isn't to win a back and forth. It's to send a message. You're not easily controlled. Every time you keep your composure, you add another brick to the wall of your reputation. And once that wall is high enough, almost no one dares to try climbing it." Conclusion. The most dangerous person isn't the one who strikes first. It's the one who doesn't need to strike, yet everyone is cautious around. You can't live forever in defense, running to put out every accusation. You must step into the offensive, defining yourself before others do it for you. Every word you say must be a move, not a rushed reaction, not a long-winded explanation, but something that changes your position on the board, piece by piece. When you can do that, you're no longer led by praise or criticism. You become someone beyond control. And when others realize this, they will approach you with respect or caution. If you feel this message speaks to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let more people know that power doesn't always lie in the voice. Sometimes it lies in the silence and in how you choose to keep it.